Hey, what's up guys, it's Darius, and today we'll be testing the battery of the brand new Samsung Galaxy S21 and comparing it with a few of its best competitors out there, the iPhone 12, the Google Pixel 5, the Sony Xperia 5 Mark II, and of course its predecessor, the Galaxy S20. As always, they're on the same Wi-Fi network with Bluetooth and location enabled, and have matched the brightness to around 1000 lux. But let's jump right in with YouTube. All of these devices have a 4000 mAh battery, except for the iPhone, which only has a 2850 mAh battery. In terms of displays, the Pixel has the smallest at 6 inches, the iPhone and the Sony come in at 6.1 inches, while both the Samsungs have a 6.2 inch display. After an hour of YouTube, both the iPhone and the Pixel are ahead with 96% remaining. The Sony and the S21 have 94% remaining, while the S20 only 90%. But now let's move on to some Instagram Reels. Now there's quite a few differences between these devices. First of all, the display resolution. The S20 has the highest resolution panel with a Quad HD resolution. The iPhone is slightly below that, and the rest have 1080p panels. Yes, the S21 is actually a step down compared to the S20, at least in terms of resolution. Now another big difference is the refresh rate. The Sony and the S20 are fixed at 120 Hz, while on the S21 it varies depending on the content that is displayed. It can go all the way down to 48 Hz when you're just watching a video, for example. The Pixel also varies the refresh rate, but it only goes up to 90 Hz, while the iPhone is fixed at 60 Hz. With 2 hours in, they all have 88%, except for the S21, which is at 87%, and the S20, which is only at 81%. Now let's move on to some 4K video recording. Now we've been recording for an hour now, which is a very intense task, and the results are quite interesting. The Sony is ahead with 69% remaining, the iPhone 68%, the Pixel 66%, the S21 63%, and the S20 only 52%. The S20 is really not doing well. Now let's move on to some gaming. After half an hour of playing Subway Surfers, the Sony is still going really strong. It only lost 3%. Now with 66% remaining, the iPhone is down to 63%, the Pixel 58%, the S21 57%, and the S20 is already down to 42%. Now let's continue with some more light gaming. We're 4 hours in, the Sony is still in the lead with 62%, the iPhone has 58%, the Pixel 54%, the S21 53%, and the S20 only 37%. And I do realize that we don't use our phones for the whole day non-stop, which is why we're now going to do a standby test. They've been in standby for 11 hours now, and the results are very interesting. The Sony actually did the worst, losing 10% overnight. The Pixel lost 8%, the S20 lost 5%, the iPhone 4%, and the S21 only 3%. I really did not expect these results. But now let's move on to Zoom. Our 1 hour meeting has just concluded, and as you can tell by these results, it was quite an intense task. The iPhone is now in the lead with 36% remaining. In second place, the Sony with 34%, the S21 with 30%, the Pixel with 29%, and the S20 only with 9%. Now let's actually run a few benchmarks, because that also drains the battery quite a bit, and it's interesting to see how these all perform. The Sony has a Snapdragon 865 chip, the iPhone has the A14 chip, the Pixel has, at least on paper, the weakest Snapdragon 765G processor, the S20 has the infamous Exynos 990, and the S21 has the brand new Exynos 2100, which apparently is much improved. Alright, here are the results, and they're actually quite shocking. The iPhone won by quite a bit, which was expected, but what I really did not expect was the Sony with an older processor beating the S21. And the difference between the S21 and the S20 was also very small. The Pixel came in last place, which was expected. But again, I did not expect the Exynos 2100 to perform this poorly. Now keep in mind, these tests were done when these devices were already quite warm. They were just in a 1 hour Zoom meeting, but I didn't expect them to throttle this much. Now I ran this test again later on when the devices were cool. And here the S21 definitely did perform a lot better. It got almost 1000 points more in the multi-core, which means it's quite affected by thermal throttling. The other devices were fairly consistent though, So maybe the S21 is not optimized for it yet. I'm not exactly sure. Now the graphics benchmark was quite interesting. The iPhone won again, but here the Samsung definitely performed a lot better, and it's also a massive improvement compared to its predecessor. And here in the 3D Mark benchmark, the gap is even more pronounced. Now let's move on to some Netflix. And there goes the S20. It lasted 5 hours and 42 minutes, which is okay, but it's not a great result. The others are still going strong. Now keep in mind, this is the oldest out of these devices. I've used it for quite a bit, so the battery health is not at 100%, but it's not at like 80% either. I'd estimate it to be around 90 to 95%. But it is quite interesting to see how much better the battery life on the S21 is. Maybe it's due to the more efficient processor, or a lower resolution panel, or because the refresh rate is now variable instead of fixed. But let's move on with the others. We're 6.5 hours in. The iPhone still has a marginal lead with 21% compared to 20 on the Sony, 16 on the S21, and 14 on the Pixel. Now I wanted to do this browsing test where it auto refreshes a web page, but the iPhone just refused to do it. It always crashed. So instead we're going to move on to Among Us now. An hour later, the iPhone has extended its lead with 13%, the Sony's down to 10%, while the S21 to 8%, and the Pixel only has 6% remaining. Now let's move on to Twitch. I'm just going to run this random Twitch stream. And there goes the Pixel. It lasted just shy of 8 hours, which is an impressive result, but it is a little surprising because it has the weakest processor, a smaller display with a lower refresh rate, but a good result nonetheless. The others still have a few percent left. The iPhone is at 7%, the Sony at 4%, and the Samsung at 3%. And there goes the S21. It lasted 8 hours and 6 minutes. It's definitely a very good result and much better than its predecessor, the S20. 11 minutes later, the Sony died. It was quite close, but I'm very impressed with the Sony, especially because it doesn't have a variable refresh rate. It's fixed at 120 Hz. And the iPhone definitely lasted quite a bit longer, almost 9 hours, which is very impressive given its small battery capacity. But again, it was only running at 60 Hz. Alright, here are the results. In last place is the Galaxy S20. It lasted 5 hours and 42 minutes. Yes, the battery health is not at 100%. Still, it's not a great result. In second place was the Pixel 5, which lasted 7 hours and 58 minutes. Definitely a respectable result. But again, it is the smallest device with the weakest processor, and it was only running at 90 Hz, not at 120 Hz. In third place was the Galaxy S21. No, it did not win, but it's a massive improvement over the last generation. I'm personally very interested in how it compares to the Snapdragon 888 model. If you want to see a video on that, definitely let me know in the comments down below or by smashing the like button. In second place, we have the Sony Xperia 5 Mark II, which is very impressive, and I did not expect this at all. And in first place, we have the iPhone 12. It lasted 8 hours and 59 minutes, which is very impressive given its small capacity battery. But again, I wouldn't really call this the winner because it was only running at 60 Hz because it just doesn't go higher. And I'm confident that it would not have won if the others were set to 60 Hz as well. Make sure you're subscribed and you've hit the notification bell to not miss any of my upcoming battery tests on the Galaxy S21 lineup. And I'll see you guys in the next one.